Your week has been going well. This was one of those weeks where electronics did not cooperate with everybody, but we made it through. We made it through. All right. We're going to look at productivity today and give it a couple of minutes. A couple of people still missing, but if you look at your Canvas page, let me see something. Okay. Actually, I have a warm-up question I'd like you to look at. It's in the module. It's not published, but I'm going to publish it right now. So let's look, and it's Friday. Let's look at a thought question. Got a few people still coming in. And then I need to publish it. All right, so you have a discussion question. You might have to refresh your page in order to see it. So let me refresh mine, see if it's there. Yeah, okay, so let me share. So this is just a discussion question. Take a few minutes to think about. We've been doing cycles. We last, so I'm gonna pull this up. Sharing, sharing, sharing. Sharing has been an interesting thing this week. Sometimes when I share, I get kicked out. Zoom has been up and down, back and forth. But we are here. We made it. All right. So in Canvas. All right, just while I have this page up, just a reminder that for your class, sixth period exam is September the 30th, Tuesday, September 30th. And it's going to be on all of Unit 1 in the AP classroom. So if you look at it from that point, it's going to be, I'm going to try to include productivity and then take out, not because we haven't done trophic levels and food chains and food web. So any questions that are on that exam, I'll eliminate those. But it will be everything up to 1.8. Okay. All right. That being said, everybody should have already turned in their phosphorus and water cycle FRQ. That was the last assignment that you had. So click on importance of the water cycle. And again, this is just a discussion question. Oops, it's not showing me the question. All right, let me see what it looks like. Oh, there it is. No, that's not it. So where's the question? Hmm, it's there. I see the drop, but I don't see the question. Do y'all see the question? Let me see what it looks like from my side. It should look like a discussion. It should look like that. Oh, you do see it. Oh, okay, because I got a couple of people have answered it already. All right. You got it. Four problems that would occur if the water cycle was suddenly stopped in an ecosystem. Included this discussion how your photosynthesis and respiration are involved in this process. All right, so make sure you include that. And, um, and also identify the ecosystem that you're talking about. So kind of be specific. All right, I'm going to stop sharing because right now it's sharing the two answers that are there, and I'm going to copy them. But I just wanted to make sure you could see the question. All right, if you finish that, go ahead and look at 1.8 in, all right, good afternoon, Amelia. We're doing a discussion question first. I don't know if you heard me. All right, good afternoon, Amelia. There's a discussion question first on your to-do list, so do that first. And then we are looking at 1.8, which is productivity, which also talks about photosynthesis. All right, so I'll give you all about another 5 minutes to think about that question. Then I'm going to bring up our lovely friend, Mr. Sneeds, to do the video for 1.8. There it goes. It didn't want to share. You don't have to respond to anybody else's discussion. You just have to answer yours. All right, let me see what happened here. Mm, Okay. Well, I'm just was wanted to make sure you all could see it. I have my version of like I said, the teacher's view is different to student view sometimes. But I got your submissions. Okay. All right. Piper, I like your answer. Every once in a while, we have to have some thought. Because what I really want y'all to remember that this is environmental science. It's the environment that you live in, and that this is not just textbook information. This is something that you need to be aware of your surroundings and what's going on, and just to be more thoughtful of how this is actually relating to where you live on the planet. Okay, whoa. My. Wow. LaDainian, you covered all the bases. I appreciate that. Yeah. And I'll share these later. I'm gonna give everybody a chance to have your thoughts. But and if you can see the discussion line, go ahead and look at what folks are saying. I don't think I gave the ability to respond, but I think you might be able to see it. I don't forget to actually discuss photosynthesis and respiration in your answer. All right, so Jesse, take a look at yours again. All right, so I'm gonna give a few more minutes. If you just came in, we are looking at the discussion question, and it will be on your um, to-do list on the water cycle. I'm having people are saying that you have to click on view full discussion, and you'll be able to see the question. So, It's funny, every time I try to go in the grade book, the Infinite Campus, it tells me failed. And then it comes on. All right, so hopefully everybody's had a chance to give that some thought. I'm going to go ahead and move on with the video for productivity. And I think it's frozen.
Productivity, and they're going to be kilocalories per meter squared per year. Now we can use different measures, but they always have to be expressed in this format where it's a measure of energy, so kilocalories, per a given area, meter squared, over a given time in a year. So
Dawn Power Sets traps, locks, and removes 99%.
From idea to submission, empower students to do their best work with Grammarly's comprehensive AI writing assistance.
And there we go.
So we can also think of this as the rate of photosynthesis of all the producers in a given area over a period of time. So we can kind of use the analogy of plants as workers. So think of all the workers in a factory and how many.
Taken back.
So it's just the rate that solar energy or light is transformed into organic compounds like glucose or cellulose through photosynthesis over a period of time. So we'll take a look at the units here that we use to measure primary productivity, and they're going to be kilocalories per meter squared per year. Now we can use different measures, but they always have to be expressed in this format where it's a measure of energy, so kilocalories, per a given area, meters squared, over a given time in a year. So we can also think of this as the rate of photosynthesis of all the producers in a given area over a period of time. So we can kind of use the analogy of plants as workers. So think of all the workers in a factory and how many gadgets they produce over a given period of time. That would be the productivity of the factory. What we also want to do is think of this as the rate of plant growth. Since photosynthesis translates into plant growth, areas that have higher productivity are going to have higher plant growth. This is just an easier way to kind of grasp what productivity actually looks like.
I'm going to pause it right there for a minute. Write this formula down. There are some formulas that you'll have on the AP exam. They do allow you a calculator. They have a calculator embedded in the program. And so you will be expected to calculate some things along the way. So this is one of a few formulas that you'll need to have in your arsenal in order to answer the questions. So this is for basic productivity, and they will give you information and ask you to calculate the basic productivity, and the answer will always be in kilocalories per meter square per year. Okay. So write that formula down somewhere. I'm sure it's somewhere else, but just take note of that.
Then there's also a couple trends that we want to understand. So the higher the primary productivity in a given area, the higher the plant growth, which means that there's going to be more food and shelter available for animals, which means there will be higher biodiversity. So this is a really important trend. It's one we'll talk about more than once in this video, and that's that ecosystems with high primary productivity are going to have a higher diversity of species they can support, and therefore we would consider them to be more biodiverse.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it, just by thinking about it. Meet Base 44.
Now we'll take a look at how to actually calculate primary productivity. So the first thing we have to remember is that plants use up some of the energy that they harness from the sun for cellular respiration. So this goes to things like fueling their movement or the internal transportation that they do. So just like humans use up energy for digestion, tissue repair, things like that. So think of respiration loss as the amount of energy that plants use just to keep themselves running. Or you can think of it as the taxes that are taken out of the plant's paycheck. Then we have gross primary productivity. This is going to be the total amount of sunlight that the plants capture and convert into energy. Or think of it as the total photosynthetic rate. If we're sticking with the paycheck analogy, you can think of this as the total paycheck amount that the plant earns by doing the work of photosynthesis. And then finally, we have net primary productivity. Net primary productivity is going to be the amount of energy that the plant is able to actually store as biomass, meaning the amount of plant growth that takes place. This is what's left over for consumers like animals that need to eat the plants after the plants have used up the energy that they require for cellular respiration. Think of this as the take-home pay, the actual amount of money that the plant gets to take home and put in the bank account after taxes are taken out. We have a simple equation for this. It's NPP equals GPP minus respiration loss. So we'll do some practice with these equations in a later video. And then finally, we have a diagram that can be really helpful to grasp what this actually looks like in a plant itself. So we have the total amount of sunlight that goes into the plant and is converted into energy is gross primary productivity. But then we have respiration loss. So remember, this is the energy used up by the plant for its basic processes that it needs to do to stay alive. And then finally, what's left over is net primary productivity. And that is the energy that's left after respiration. So this is energy that can be stored as sugars in the plant's fruit or in growth in its biomass. So trees adding bark to the outside of their trunks, or trees that add extra leaves, or the leaves grow bigger. All of that represents net primary productivity, or the actual energy that the plant's able to store after it uses what it needs for cellular respiration. So now we'll talk about a concept called ecological efficiency. So this is the portion of incoming sunlight that's actually captured by plants and then converted into biomass. So in other words, net primary productivity or food that's available to consumers. So in most ecosystems, only about 1% of the sunlight that enters the ecosystem is actually captured by the plant and used for photosynthesis or gross primary productivity. The rest of it, so about 99%, is either reflected back off the surface of the plant or just passes right through the leaf without being captured. Of this 1%, only about 40%, or 0.4% of the total incoming sunlight, is converted into biomass, or in other words, net primary productivity. However, some ecosystems are more productive than others. This could be due to the fact that they get more sunlight coming in, or their plants are able to do more photosynthesis, or they're actually more efficient than other ecosystems.
Get ready! Here comes turn now!
And finally, we'll wrap up here by looking at some trends in productivity. So remember this important trend that the more productive an ecosystem is, the higher its biodiversity. That's because there's a wider variety of plants and more of them to support a wider variety of animals. So what I want you to do is try to predict the highest productivity biome in terms of both aquatic and terrestrial, and the lowest productivity biome in terms of both aquatic and terrestrial. So take a look at this chart now here and see how you did. Instead of just memorizing though which biomes are most productive or which are least productive, or trying to remember which biomes are the most biodiverse or least biodiverse, I want us to pay attention to a couple important factors that determine productivity. So focus on this trend here. The more water available in a biome, the higher the temperature is in the biome, and the more nutrient availability in the biome are all factors that contribute to high net primary productivity. So take a look here at the graph, and we can see that swamps and marshes and tropical rainforest are going to be very highly productive biomes. They're going to have high access to water, they're going to have relatively warm temperatures that can support growth year-round, and they're also going to have high nutrient availability. Think about swamps and marshes, which have tons and tons of organic matter in the bottom of their bodies of water, lots of nutrient availability. The coral reef ecosystem follows this trend as well. It's very warm, so it can support growth year-round. There's an abundance of water, and there's a lot of nutrients from the organic matter that is a part of the reef. On the other hand, we can look at examples of biomes that have low productivity, and we can see that they have deficiencies in at least one of these three factors. So first we can look at the desert. The desert is going to have a deficiency of water, and it's also going to have a deficiency of nutrients because the soil is extremely sandy, which doesn't hold a lot of nutrients. Then we look at the tundra. The tundra is extremely cold, and so the tundra is going to have a very low temperature that can't support plant growth year-round. It's also going to have a low access to liquid water. There's a lot of frozen water in the tundra, but that's not usable by plants for photosynthesis, so it's going to limit primary productivity substantially. And then finally, we have the open ocean. Now, the ocean in most parts of the world is going to be warm enough to support plant growth. It's also going to have an abundance of water, but it has a huge deficiency of nutrients. So there's not a lot of organic matter in the open ocean to be used by producers. And so the open ocean is going to have very low primary productivity. Our practice FRQ for topic 1.8 today is going to involve the skill of describing an environmental concept or process. So first, I want you to try to describe the process of net primary productivity, and then I want you to describe the relationship between primary productivity and biodiversity. All right, everybody.
All righty. So, of course, mine is probably timed out. All right, so go back, and like I said, mine is timed out. So you have been assigned in the AP Classroom 1.8. So they have some videos that you can watch, as well as the 3 questions. But before you do that, go back and look at and I had that page up, but I need to stop sharing because right now it's on Gradebook. And before you do that, go to Canvas and read that over, please. As soon as I come out of my grade book. All right, there we go. All right, so Canvas one, and it doesn't look like it's published. It's not. Okay, it is now. All right, so it wasn't published, but it is published now. And I take it nobody had looked at that before to tell me that it wasn't published. But it is published now. So take a look at this one. Now he had a lot of conversation, and again, photosynthesis is very important. So understanding that equation, that the carbon dioxide comes from the atmosphere and the water is taken up from the roots of the soil. And there's a little magic trick that goes on as far as breaking down. If you do chemistry, you're going to actually spend some time talking about how this equation breaks down and molecules switch places, and the H in the water molecule, or actually some of the oxygen too. So water has H2O. So some of that H2O goes to working with the carbon to create the glucose, which is C6H12O6. That's all the molecules for glucose. And then some of the oxygen is left off by itself and is released into the atmosphere. All right. But all of those molecules come from whatever is taken in. So when, like I said, in chemistry, when you do high school chemistry, you'll learn that there is a balance, and you have to balance equations. What goes into an equation has to come out of the equation. You don't end up with more molecules than you started with, or vice versa. So that knowing the equation for photosynthesis is important. So read this page over first. Look at that book. And then if you remember from biology, this is showing you what is a chloroplast, is the green structure in plants. So it is showing you where this productivity is going on. So again, later on, I'll ask you to think about, like how I asked you to think about what happens if there's no water. We need to look at what happens if there's no plants. All right. And again, you have a formula here to think about. So give this page a read before you go to the AP classroom to do those questions. And I think my page is up now. So you have, and then if you've done all of that, because some of you are quick, fast, and in a hurry, remember all of this is going to be on the unit exam, which is a week away, almost a week away. So go back and review. Use this time to go back and review. Covered a lot of topics, and this will be the last one before the exam. So go back and review if you finish this one. And next week for us will just be a conversation of review. We'll go all the way back to what is an ecosystem. Okay? All right. Stop talking. And I think most of you are caught up to everything. But if you have something that's outstanding, it needs to be caught up. Today, the Infinite Campus updates on Fridays. So make sure that your update is a true reflection of what you've done. If you have something that you need to make up, please do so by the end of, I think they upgrade at 3 o'clock, and I'm going to be on till 2. So if you need me to see something, it needs to be done by 2 o'clock. I'll be here Fridays is tutorial day, so I'll be here if you need to discuss something. All right, almost everybody has done their reflection question. All right, so if you're present today, there's no reason why you should not have answered your reflection question for today on water. I got some zeros here and I shouldn't have them. Everybody should have an answer for. So take a minute to do that first. There really is no excuse for leaving that blank other than that you're sitting here doing nothing. And I don't think it's fair that I have to keep going back and opening folders for people when they're sitting right here. You're sitting right here. Like I have one person, I'm looking at their ceiling fan and they haven't answered the question, so I don't even know if they're participating or not. And I don't know what's going on with the grade book. The assignment is due today, and all of a sudden it's giving everybody zeros already. But I'm checking, so the zeros will disappear in a minute. Not to worry. Hmm. Oh, that's Again, if there's something that you need me to open that you're trying to make up, please let me know. Got a few minutes left. Just do so. It's already putting zeros in the book, and I have not even had a chance to look at them yet. I could do that. I'm surprised that one's closed. That should be last card, but okay. coming from. There's usually a third one when there's two. Okay, folks, it is 1:30. If you have no questions for me, you're good for the week. Y'all have a great weekend. See you next week. Bye. Have a great weekend.